What if I told you the state of Israel didn't start with the Holocaust?
In 1965, the former president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, said he couldn't respect the present Jews in Israel because they left Israel black and they came back white.
And that's the part no one wants to talk about. The idea for Israel, the Zionist project, began in the late 1800s, decades before World War II. Leaders like Theodor Herzl openly wrote about establishing a Jewish homeland, not necessarily in Palestine. Uganda, Argentina, even parts of the US were considered. So how did Palestine become the target? By 1917, the Balfour Declaration promised Britain's support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, a land that was 90% Arab at the time. This wasn't a gift, it was a colonial chess move. Britain needed a loyal outpost in the Middle East.
Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was after all in Great Britain. So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist.
Was a man by the name of Theodor Herzl, H-E-R-Z-L. He was the founder of Zionism. He said that he was going to find the state that God promised the Jews. Listen to this very carefully. This man, Herzl, was an atheist. He believed that there was no God. He said God did not exist. Now, how is it that a man who believes that God does not exist is going to find a state that God promised to his chosen people? Zionism is a satanic movement. It is devil. It is imperialism. It is racist. It has gone and taken the lands of the Palestinian people and through terrorism has driven them out. And through terrorism, it maintains its power. And the United States of America, with over 6 million homeless, sends to Israel billions and billions and billions of dollars everywhere to bomb Palestinian people while homeless people are here and unemployed are here.
So Israel, the biblical Israel, was a black nation, an African nation that came out of Africa and kept constant ties with Africa. And so we have to remember then that Jesus was a black Messiah, not a white Messiah, and he comes out of the whole historical background of Africa, of African traditions, of African history, of African culture, the concept of communalism, the concept of the chosen people, the concept of kingdom of God on earth. All these things were out of African tradition, not out of the white man's tradition. And Jesus was essentially a revolutionary Messiah who was trying to lead a black people in a revolt, in a struggle and conflict with a white Gentile oppressor. So the whole church has to be viewed from the point of view of the white oppressor. The white oppressor has one kind of Christianity, has one kind of church. The black church has to become independent and go back to the historic African roots of
Pop quiz. Did you know that the historical biblical name Israel is a person and not a land? Israel is not the name of a land at all. They'll have you believe that Israel was mentioned in the Old Testament, in the Bible, and even in the Quran. Of course, Israel was mentioned in the Abrahamic books, but it was mentioned because it's the name of Jacob, or Yaqub in Arabic. You see, Jacob changed his name to Israel, which means one who struggles with God, because as the story goes, he was struggling and he ended up triumphant. So his name was changed to Israel. The land of Israel, we're saying the land of Jacob. It's Jacob. Israelites are the followers of Jacob. That's what that means.
Israel was founded in 1948, and it was promoted by Britain and the U.S. primarily because they wanted to have a strategic asset in the Middle East that was going to be part of their policy of containment, because coming out of World War II, the U.S. government allied with the British government, and they wanted to get control of Middle Eastern oil. That was primarily what it was about. So the plan was to install a government, the Zionists will look, here's this already movement, the Zionist movement. We'll ally with the Zionist movement, who at the time, a lot of the ideas were, you know, we can establish a Jewish homeland multiple places. It didn't have to be Palestine. But What we'll do is we'll establish a strategic asset there. That and Iran, those were going to be the two pillars of the containment policy, whereby the U.S. government controlled Middle Eastern resources. And so, as a result of Iran, they went in a few years later, deposed, I think it was Mossadegh, and put in the Shah of Iran, brutal dictator. And so those were the two legs of we will control Middle Eastern oil and deny it to the Soviet Union.
But I must make it absolutely truth. The reason why I chased them from Uganda was because of the economy of Uganda. Uganda was going to be bankrupt. That is the reason why I chased away the Israelis.
You said you were friends with Golda Meir.
Yes, because she used to give me very good entertainment when I go to Israel.
Then you changed completely from an Israeli alliance to the Arab alliance.
I changed from Israeli alliance because Israeli are criminals and that they are not trusted people. They don't tell the world the truth. They were taken to Palestine as refugees, and then they changed Palestine to become a state of Israel by force of arms given to them by Americans and the British.
In 1917, the Balfour Declaration promised Britain's support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, a land that was 90% Arab at the time. This wasn't a gift, it was a colonial chess move. Britain needed a loyal outpost in the Middle East to control oil routes and trade. After W.Fu, the Holocaust's horror became the emotional justification. But here's where the controversy explodes. Entire Palestinian villages were emptied, sometimes before war even broke out in 1948, in coordinated plans like Plan d'Alette. The goal wasn't just defense, it was demographic engineering, and the biggest taboo. Early Israeli leaders documented it all in private papers, from land seizure strategies to psychological warfare. But many of those archives remain classified. Why? Because if they were public, the narrative of a land without a people for a people without a land might crumble overnight. Follow me for more forgotten truths they never taught you in school.